All right, folks, welcome back to Sip and Talk.
Back again for another deep dive.
You know how we always say we love a good brain teaser?
Yeah.
Well, this time you guys really outdid yourself.
This one's a tough one.
Yeah. Our listener question this week has us staring deep into the abyss of, well, existence.
I think abyss might be a tad dramatic, but yeah, this one's a doozy. It's making us question some pretty fundamental assumptions about how we interact with the world around us, you know?
Okay, so let's lay it out for everyone. Our awesome listener wants to know, why do some species seem to matter more to us than others? And before you think it's just about food choices,
right?
I'm telling you, it goes way deeper than that.
Oh, yeah, way deeper.
Way deeper.
It's like we'll lose our minds if someone steps on a spider in our house, but we happily munch on shrimp tacos.
Right.
Where's the consistency?
Exactly. And don't even get me started on the whole dog versus cow thing.
Yeah, the classic.
Dogs are our furry best friends. Cows are.
Yeah.
Well, burgers.
Well, research shows that a lot of it boils down to cultural conditioning.
Oh, really?
What we consider normal or acceptable when it comes to interacting with other species is largely shaped by the societies we grew up in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So like in some cultures, eating dog meat is totally normal, while in others it's considered taboo.
Exactly. And that's not to say one is right or wrong, but it highlights how subjective our views can be.
Yeah, so it's not like there's some universal objective scale of species importance.
Not that we've discovered. It's more like a messy patchwork of cultural norms, emotional biases, and even, dare I say, a bit of hypocrisy.
Okay, hypocrisy, I'm listening. Spill the tea.
All right, so think about the taiji dolphin hunts in Japan. They get a ton of international criticism, but it's deeply rooted in their culture and history. It's a clash between local traditions and global perceptions of what's ethical.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's like we're quick to judge other cultures' practices without always examining our own inconsistencies.
Right, and that leads to the whole speciesism debate. It's this idea that we as humans tend to favor certain species over others simply because they're more like us or more beneficial to us.
So kind of like how racism is prejudice against someone based on their race, speciesism is prejudice against a creature based on their species.
You got it. And some argue that it's just as problematic as any other form of discrimination.
Hold on. Now, I get the whole ethical dilemma, but isn't it natural to have preferences? We need to eat, we need resources, and some species are just better suited for those needs than others.
That's a valid point. We can't just stop eating or using animal products overnight. But the question is, are we drawing the line in the right place?
Okay, I'm curious. Where do you think we draw the line?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Like, we adore dogs and think it's barbaric to eat them. But we happily chow down on pigs, which studies show are just as intelligent.
Ooh, good point.
Yeah.
And what about all the creatures we don't even think twice about? Insects, for example. We swat mosquitoes without batting an eye, but are horrified at the thought of harming a dog.
Exactly. Is it just because they're annoying pests, or is there something more fundamental at play here?
And then there are plants.
Yeah.
Do they even factor into this whole ethical equation?
That's where it gets really interesting. Some philosophies like Jainism advocate for minimal harm to all living beings, including insects and plants.
Wait, hold up. Jainism. For those of us who didn't take a philosophy course in college,
Yeah.
could you break that down a bit?
Sure. Jainism is this ancient Indian religion that emphasizes nonviolence and respect for all forms of life. They believe that everything from a tiny ant to a giant tree possesses a soul and deserves to be treated with compassion.
Wow. So even something as seemingly unfeeling as a tree has inherent value in their eyes.
Exactly. And that challenges our whole westernized view of nature as something to be exploited for our own benefit.
Okay, mine officially blown. So we've got cultural norms, emotional biases, the speciesism debate, and ancient philosophies that make us question our entire relationship with nature.
It's a lot to unpack.
Where do we even go from here?
Well, that's the beauty of these kinds of deep dives. They lead to more questions than answers.
Right.
But I think that's a good thing. It means we're actually engaging with these complex issues, not just skimming the surface.
You're totally right.
Yeah.
It's easy to get stuck in our own little bubbles and not even realize the impact our choices have on other species.
Exactly. And speaking of bubbles, remember how we talked about anthropomorphism earlier?
Yeah.
That plays a huge role in how we perceive and value different species.
Okay, refresh my memory. Anthropomorphism is?
It's when we project human characteristics onto animals, like giving them names and imagining they have thoughts and feelings like ours.
Oh, right. Like how we see a dog wagging its tail and assume it's happy,
Yeah.
or a cat purring and think it's content.
Exactly. And while there's nothing wrong with finding those behaviors endearing, it can lead us to make assumptions about a species' intelligence or emotional capacity that might not be accurate.
So we might overestimate the humanness of certain animals just because they exhibit behaviors we interpret as similar to our own.
Precisely. And that can bias our perception of their worth. Like, we might be more inclined to protect dolphins because we see them as intelligent and social, even though some species of fish might be just as cognitively complex.
But we just see them as, well, fish food.
Exactly. And then there's the whole legal side of this. Did you know that the legal status of a species actually influences how we perceive its value?
Wait, really? So it's not just about feelings and cultural norms. There are laws that dictate which species matter more.
Absolutely. For example, in many countries, dogs are protected under specific animal cruelty laws, while cows and pigs are categorized as livestock, which means they have fewer legal protections.
Wow, so the law itself reinforces this hierarchy of species. It's like we've created this whole system that codifies our biases.
It's true. And it gets even more complex when you consider things like religion and spirituality.
Oh yeah, we briefly touched on Jainism earlier. But what about other religions? How do they factor into our relationship with other species?
We'll take Buddhism, for example. It emphasizes compassion and nonviolence toward all living beings. In theory, that should extend to every creature, from the tiniest insect to the largest whale.
But in practice, I imagine it's not always so black and white.
You're right. Even within Buddhism, there are different interpretations and practices. For instance, the tradition of releasing animals as a form of merit-making usually focuses on birds and fish, not so much insects or other less charismatic creatures.
So even with the best intentions, there's still this inherent bias towards certain species. It's like we can't escape our own preconceived notions of what deserves our compassion.
It's a challenge, that's for sure. But I think the first step is acknowledging those biases and having these open and honest conversations about how we can do better.
Okay, so far we've been talking about species here on Earth. But what if we zoom out a little? What about alien life? How would we even begin to assess the value of an extraterrestrial being?
Whoa, now you're really taking us into uncharted territory. And honestly, it's a question that throws a wrench into everything we've discussed so far.
Right, like all our earthly biases about intelligence, appearance, and usefulness might go out the window when we encounter a life form that's completely different from anything we've ever imagined.
Exactly. What if they communicate through telepathy? Or what if their intelligence is so advanced that we can't even comprehend it? Would we still be able to recognize their inherent worth?
Or would we fall back on our old patterns of judgment and exploitation?
It's a chilling thought, isn't it? The potential for repeating the same mistakes on a cosmic scale.
Okay, folks, buckle up, because this conversation is about to get even wilder. In Part 3, we'll explore the mind-boggling implications of encountering extraterrestrial life and what it could mean for the future of speciesism. Stay tuned. All right, deep divers, we're back and ready to plunge headfirst into the cosmic unknown. Last time we left off with this mind-blowing question.
Yeah.
How would we treat extraterrestrial life? Would we be able to shed our earthly biases and recognize their inherent value? Or would we just repeat the same patterns of speciesism on a galactic scale?
It's a question that sci-fi writers have been grappling with for decades, but now it's starting to feel less like fiction and more like a potential reality we need to prepare for.
Okay, so let's play this out. Imagine we finally make contact.
Right.
But instead of these sleek humanoid aliens we see in movies,
Right.
we encounter something, well, unexpected.
Unexpected. How? Give me an example.
Okay, picture this. We detect signals from a distant planet. Super advanced technology, complex communication patterns. We're all hyped up thinking we're about to meet some super intelligent beings.
Right.
But when our probes arrive, what do they find? A planet inhabited by giant sentient slugs.
Giant sentient slugs. Okay, I love it.
Yeah.
But seriously, would we be able to look past their slimy exterior and recognize their intelligence, or would we just see them as, what, slugs?
Right. Our whole idea of what constitutes intelligent life is so limited by our own experiences here on Earth.
Exactly. We might be looking for signs of technology or communication that resemble our own and completely miss other forms of intelligence that are beyond our comprehension.
And what if these alien species aren't technologically advanced? What if they're more like, I don't know, space cows?
Ooh.
Peaceful, grazing on cosmic meadows, completely unaware of the danger they might be in?
Space cows. Now I'm picturing little alien cowboys herding them across asteroid fields.
I know.
But you raise a good point. If we encounter a species that's less technologically developed than us, would we be tempted to exploit them?
I mean, it's not like we have a great track record here on Earth. Just look at how we've treated indigenous cultures or even our own fellow humans throughout history.
It's a sobering thought. All the ethical dilemmas we've been wrestling with here on Earth could play out on an intergalactic scale.
Okay, this is getting pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Can we lighten things up a bit? What about the idea of lab-grown meat? Could that be a game changer when it comes to speciesism?
Ooh, that's an interesting angle. If we can create meat in a lab, do we even need to draw the line between edible and non-edible animals anymore?
Right? No more factory farms, no more slaughterhouses. We could potentially have all the meat we want without harming any living creatures.
It sounds like a win-win, right? But even then, would we truly overcome our ingrained biases? Would people still be okay with lab-grown beef, but squeamish about lab-grown dog meat?
Ooh, good point. It's like, even if technology solves the practical problem, the emotional and cultural baggage might still linger.
It suggests that we might need more than just technological solutions. We might need a fundamental shift in our values, a deeper understanding of our interconnectedness with all life, both here on Earth and beyond.
So what does that look like in practice? How do we cultivate that kind of radical empathy?
Well, I think it starts with education, learning about different cultures, different species, different ways of being in the world, expanding our circle of compassion beyond just those who are similar to us.
And maybe a little bit of imagination wouldn't hurt either, trying to see the world from the perspective of a giant slug or a space cow. Who knows, maybe they have something valuable to teach us about ethics, about existence, about what it means to be alive.
Beautifully said. We need to approach these encounters with humility and a willingness to learn, to recognize that we don't have all the answers and that there's so much we can learn from other forms of life, no matter how different they may seem.
Well, folks, we've covered a lot of ground today, from dolphin burgers to space cows, from tree bleeding to the ethical implications of alien rays. It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, it has.
And as always, we've only just scratched the surface.
We really have.
But the one thing that's clear is this. The question of why some species matter more than others is not just an academic exercise. It's a question that goes to the heart of what it means to be human, to be ethical, to be a responsible inhabitant of this planet and potentially the universe.
It really does.
It's a question that demands our attention, our critical thinking, and our unwavering compassion.
Absolutely.
And on that note, if you're craving more mind-expanding adventures, be sure to check out our friend Micky's YouTube channel, Mickeytolife.
You know him.
He's a fellow deep diver exploring everything from travel and whiskey to big philosophical questions that keep us up at night.
It's great.
He's got this incredible knack for making even the most complex topics relatable and engaging.
He does.
So until next time, keep those questions coming, keep those minds open, and as always, cheers to another deep dive.